I'm Lizzie Harms. I'm 16 and I'm in year 11 at school. And I want to tackle the issue of gender equality. So when I was starting this presentation, I thought, how do I start and do I need to introduce gender equality? And of course, it's easy to talk about the opposite thing when you're tackling an issue. So I thought, what about inequality? So obviously, I think everyone in the room should or does know what gender equality is. And it's the idea of both genders being equal and have fair rights. Unfortunately, inequality includes, in business and politics, things like the glass cliff or the glass ceiling, pay gaps. It also includes cultures such as rape and sexualization such as abuse, assault, and harassment. Go back one. So I actually kind of wanted to skip over this slide because when I first did it, I changed my mind about it because instead of doing the foundations of gender equality incidents, I wanted to do society and how, cultures of it. So in this area, I'm from Leongatha, which isn't far, and it's a small town, country town. There's these cultures and footy cultures I'm going to pick out, which is around these towns have this focus for footy and everything looks up to the footy club and the netball club in the town. With these footy clubs, you get this idea that men are powerful if they're masculine and their masculinity is powerful and valued, and their ultimate goal is to win the games. With this, the netball club gets pushed aside, and that's the women. And in fact, the mums are asked to be in the kitchen and make the food each week for the dinners. I'm not sure if you know, the footy club have dinners each week, and it's only asked of the women to be in the kitchen, and that's just one of the examples of how unfair it is. With this, there's a lot of drinking that comes along with celebrating and not celebrating the losses of footy. And you hear about, Dan and I were talking about how in bars, it could be any guy, it's not just the footy guys, but, they just respect women, and it's just simple things like sexist jokes and sexist comments that it is. It's just putting aside the wife or the girlfriend or the partner or their sister or their mother or whatever it is. So we've got this massive pyramid, which is kind of daunting and scary, but it's important that we make the link that it starts with sexist jokes, and it starts with the language and stereotypes and simple things like that that leads to the murders like what you've heard with Eurydice and unfortunately the one in Basque Coast, the domestic violence case. And why people rally, when they rally about the Eurydice thing and so many people come together to talk about those things is because they're sick of the way people treat them on a daily basis. It's not just those few incidents like the murders. There's many, but it's those simple things that bug us women every day and men, because the ones that do respect the women get sick of being put into that category of being a man who disrespects women. So, does this mean that I'm destined to be a murderer if I say a sexist comment? And that's obviously no, because unfortunately, those who do say sexist comments are most likely to conduct things like that and acts of cruelty. But as well, we have the power to change, and that's my next slide. And it's for both men and women that if you say a sexist comment, you can stop saying it and you can pull up on yourself, but also to victims and the people hearing it, you can stop somebody from saying that. And that's just as important on the way to gender equality, is the change that what we accept and the level that we accept. So I want to tell you my story, but before I do that, I want to ask Kaylin, if that's okay, and I'm trying to think of young girls in the room that I can remember their names. Is it Vienna? Would you be able to come to the front? I just want to ask you a quick question. This wasn't planned, but I just was thinking of it while I was here. If you just want to come up here, I'll just ask you a quick question. So, at school, do boys ever be mean to you or exclude you just because you're a girl? No? Well, that's good. And yeah, do you have an example? So Vienna just said, thank you guys, you can go back and sit down. Vienna just said that the exclusion as boy groups and girl groups, and this is a perfect example in the playground that often like all the boys hang out, but the girls are expected to go follow and watch them. So just like those girls, they're so young, this happens to all of us on a daily basis, and my journey started pretty rough, and it obviously was present in primary school with simple things like that, but in high school, in year 7, I was actually grabbed by 2 boys. all of the girls were watching the football, like as they played football at lunch, trying to find our place and identity. And I was grabbed by 2 boys. They grabbed my arms like this, and I had one boy on this arm and one boy on this arm, and they were holding me down. And they had dared, and there was a large group of boys sitting off to the side. They were laughing and watching. And they had dared this vulnerable boy in our year level to come and grab my backside. So 2 boys held me. And obviously I was asking them to stop and stuff. But this was just a perfect example of how one group of boys could manipulate one boy. And so what I did was I went and told the teacher, and I was very shocked and very upset. And I went and told my teacher, and he, instead of punishing the boys who dared him and who conducted this, he punished the person who made the act, which he obviously did deserve a punishment, but it's not tackling the root of the issue. And so these boys went through schooling with me, and they continued to do things. Like in year 8, I was continually punched in the breast by a guy who thought it was really funny to just punch a girl. I don't know why. So, of course, I kicked him where it hurt. And you probably shouldn't do that. It's not a very good example. But, of course, I was the one who was told, you took that way too far. That's what they would say to me. That's just, don't you know that that's equivalent to a lady giving birth, like the pain? Like, okay. I don't think so, but anyway. And so it just continued, and instead, I'd tell my friends, and they would say, oh, they're just mucking around, boys will be boys, why didn't you give them a challenge or whatever? And so then year 9, I did challenge a boy who made a sexist comment in class, and I just pulled him up. I can't remember what it was. I think it was something like, get back in the kitchen, as they always say, and I think it was actually to his girlfriend. And I just said, hey, you can't say that. And he hit me forcefully across the face. And when I told the teacher, the science teacher, she said, oh, you sit at the back of the class. How was I supposed to see that? You're in the back row talking anyway, so maybe if you were doing your work, this wouldn't be a problem. So because I was a social girl, quite popular during high school, teachers were saying, you sit at the back, pretty much saying to me, you deserved it, which I don't think is fair at all. And then Year 10, I was sexually harassed throughout the whole year, and that includes inappropriate comments, people touching me. I'd be getting my books out of my locker, and they would stare behind me and try and look up my skirt or my dress. And it's just simple things like that, and it was just eating away at me, and I became very depressed, and I hated school. And I think when you're that age, it's really, really hard, and when you're trying to find your identity, and you want to be wanted, and a lot of girls at that age, it doesn't matter if it's being wanted in a bad way or a good way, they just want attention, which I didn't want, but I did want to be appreciated by my peers. So towards the end of the year, I stood up for myself and some of my friends who were copying it as well, and I went and told my coordinator, who then fought back at me and said, I need evidence. So I told him, oh no, I need more evidence, I need more specific examples, which if somebody's reaching out, that's a pretty hard thing to do in the first place. Eventually it went through to the principal and stuff, and they sorted it out, and the boys got punished. And they asked me, would you like to press charges? And I said, well, no, because they're my peers, I don't want them to know I've come out about this, and they're really young. And that's what a lot of people do. Whether it's on the footy field and they're getting a punch, they say, no, we don't want to press charges, they're really young. So from this, I copped backlash and I didn't press charges, but I did cop a lot of backlash from my peers, and that was really hard with my friends as well. People say you're attention seeking, all that sort of stuff. But what I did do was turn that anger into something positive. So I created an Empowering Young Women event, And I got Clementine Ford along to come speak at that event as well. And that's where I told everyone my story. It was all young girls from 14 to 18. And then this is where that's where I kind of started my gender equality battle, I guess. So what went wrong was that people just fought against it. Instead of supporting me, they gave me every reason to not speak out about it. And I just think that's so cruel, because I'd been bottling that up for so long, and then people try and fight about it, saying, oh, you're attention seeking. And whether it's a small comment, it can make such a difference on someone's life. So I became my own hero by creating this event, but I also inspired other women and young women and people my age, and then they can go inspire other people or make a slight change, like standing up for somebody. So how we can all be heroes on everyday life and the path to gender equality is start with the small stuff. It's as simple as, your mate saying something like, oh, she's just in the kitchen where she belongs or something. Just say, hey, I don't appreciate that. If you shouldn't be saying that, or at least not around me. Because then they know that if you don't tolerate that sort of stuff, you're not going to tolerate what else they're doing behind closed doors. And I guess that's kind of my story, but yeah, encourage each other and start the conversation, whether it's in your home. To the young girls in here, talk to your mum, talk to your dad, talk to anyone about it, and talk to your kids and people in the workforce. Just make sure everyone's okay, and if you see something happen, support them and stand for each other.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.